Recording is in progress.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andrew, one more time. As we do every week, this is now week 39 of the Indigenous Global Unity Summit events. And so I do acknowledge those who came before us on this land. And so I do say a land acknowledgement. So we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on as at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We would thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So let me just get my own presentation up and running here. Start this here. And going back to share screen. PowerPoint slide, we will share. Okay, so hopefully everybody will see this very shortly. Oops, I think this is not the first slide. Yeah. Sorry for that. That's better. Okay, so we're now back on the first slide. I wanted to while this first slide is up, mention, of course, the events that are coming up. Actually, today, Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, is World Wildlife Day. So this is something, what happened to my chat? World Wildlife Day is 2022, driving the debate toward the imperative need to reverse the fate of the most critically endangered species and to support the restoration of their habitats and ecosystems and promote their sustainable use by humanity. Actually, this aligns very much with many of the things that we are trying to promote as well within the Global Unity Network. So as well, coming up, of course, next Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 is International Women's Day. So that is a global day celebrated annually on March 8th to commemorate the cultural, political, and socioeconomic achievements of women. It's also a focal point in the women's rights movement, bringing attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. So in the chat it's a link to internationalwomensday.com. So as always, I do start this presentation by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors, in particular Andrew Networks, which has replaced Edward Foundation as our primary sponsor for these Global Unity Network weekly Thursday Zoom calls, which will last through to December 29th, 2023. Andrew Networks also rebroadcasting any production-ready episodes on the AHIABGA.org domain, being redirected to UCIT-TV site. You will also notice that our logo indicates that this is the 2021 to 2023 IGU Summit event. We do plan to continue delivering this Thursday events until the end of 2023 in alignment with the UN Global Compact 2021 to 23 vision and strategy. So I will put information as always into the chat as I move forward. You also see logos on this page for the Maui Aloha Project, the 5 Points Youth Foundation, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, the Future Lift Foundation, Global Peace Let's Talk, the American International Education Federation, the EdFu Foundation, the Conservancy Trust, the SAGA Foundation, the LA Global Foundation, as well as our own logos for the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, the Greater Unity Network, the Indigenous Unity Flag, the Unity 4K Clubs, and the HEPTA Matrix Partnership template of the Global Unity Business Group, and others as well. So again, in the chat, I am putting some links to these organizations that I mentioned. Again, I want to mention our sponsor, Andrew Networks, supporting the promotional ecosystem for the Global Unity Network initiative, which again continues through to December 29th, 2023. It is Andrew Networks that donates our hosting and promotional support services. Andrew Networks being a brand and domain name owned by RXTC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels, including TRN TV, the Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many others. Again, in the chat are these links to Andrew Networks. Andrew also founded the original Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Advocates, and Activists in September 2019, with our focus on localizing sustainable development goals during this decade of action and delivery of the SDGs from 2020 to 2030. Andrew did appoint me as an Ad Hoc International Advisory Board representative for Canada, La Francophonie, and the Commonwealth of Nations countries, originally published on January 1st, 2020. I was later appointed as a representative for Turtle Island in early 2021. So I work for Energy University. I wanted to let you know who I am before I go too far. My name is Lloyd Helferty. I am the CED, or the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energy University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, New York. I am, however, located in the city of Markham, in the Greater Toronto area in Southern Ontario, Canada. Energy University is a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York City, a member of the UN Global Compact and a United Nations Academic Impact member and partner. Energy U is a virtual university created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. So Energy does this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into those communities in the areas of renewable energy, high density food growth solutions, along with systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. So Energy is actually supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies they employ. Importantly, Energy University also supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all of the various integrated solutions for achieving closed loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. Again, in the chat are my contact details. So I'm also the co-founder and administrator of the We Energy Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization that is seeking to undertake life value peace education in the context of life learning gardens. So I was also designated, of course, as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles, with a portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities, as a member of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists, seeking to empower our communities to engage with Royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities to establish what we call interfaith, neighborhood, academic, and business collaboratives, or INABCs, that will help come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are globalizing the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals, while also seeking ways to leave no one behind. Again, in the chat are some links to the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board. So I am also a co-founder of the Global Unity Business Group, which did come together as a coalition of small businesses in order to establish, manage, and grow the Global Unity Network. The Global Unity Business Group is a humanitarian enterprise, a global sustainable and regenerative development corporation, supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source, regenerative, climate smart infrastructure, set up as life learning gardens, along with a hybrid virtual learning platform that we call the VCN, or Interchange for Peace. The Global Unity Business Group was created in order to formalize the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board process of globalization to global goals, starting with the SDGs, which is being done by the establishment of a Global Unity Network, which includes the Unity Gardens Network, Unity Learning Network, along with many other dedicated learning networks. These Unity networks as important components of our what we call network of networks. It's important to note that the existing social media, WhatsApp and Facebook and LinkedIn groups that we're using right now are being used as placeholder as we build the global network, prepare to launch, where we'll eventually get all of the people, companies, and nodes of our network onto this virtual Interchange for Peace, or VCN, where we'll then be able to gain access to the many tools and services that are available there, and where they can much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all of the globally coordinated real-world projects, events, enterprises, and infrastructure. So again, in the chat are some links to the business group. So the Global Unity Network was created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the SDGs, our goal being to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind because the existing economic paradigm is very much focused on making money for those who are already wealthy by extracting resources through the exploitation, often the over-exploitation of people and the natural world, and therefore the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. Our focus is thus on billions of people who exist, or rather subsist, on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various regenerative local enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. As an entry point, we are focused in particular on those communities that are the most food insecure. And in the chat are some social media links. So the Global Unity Network is promoting the delivery of a suite of practical solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals during this SDG period until 2030. We are focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises, and using hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula, with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in the practical settings, or practicum learning programs, along with leveraging these various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INABC teams to establish local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms are set up in collaboration with the existing schools in local communities, can be used for the local and remote virtual delivery of the practicum learning programs for all of our FFEG members, so they can learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, or even internationally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity for themselves and for the people in their own local communities, for all people on all continents, with the intention of leaving no one behind. So again, especially the Smart Cities Network is in the chat. So we also promote through our virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. We use all the various social, practical social media networking trade tools, including those of the modern fourth industrial revolution, combining the wisdom of the crowds with the deep indigenous knowledge of both our ancestors and the living indigenous people of this earth, in order to learn from each other about how to share the abundance of this planet in order to create productive, regenerative, climate-smart landscapes wherever we may live, in and around each and all of our local communities. So our intention is also to help restore nature and biodiversity, ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as proper stewards of our one and only beautiful planet. So again, in the chat is the link to the Unity Biodiversity Network. Now at this point, this is slide number 9, and we are taking a break so we can have our guest speaker, who I have not noticed whether they are actually on our call at this time. If somebody else might have seen them come in, I have not been the person to manage the access. Furaha?
What's the name, Lloyd?
Furaha?
Yes. Yes, I see that person is here.
Okay,
Yes,
excellent.
Yes.
So we can have Furaha come on the call and hopefully introduce herself quickly.
Stop sharing your screen, please, Lloyd.
Okay. Yeah.
Bonsoir. Good evening.
Hello, Furaha.
Yes.
So you can go ahead.
Yes, I'm here, present. Yes,
Do you have a presentation to share with us?
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
Oui, yes, sir. Yes, I have it.
I have to say, I'm quite happy to see somebody in the Democratic Republic of Congo on our call today. We actually began this journey in partnership with a gentleman from the Democratic Republic of Congo a couple of years ago. Almost.
What's his name and what's the organization?
That is, I'm trying to remember now. It's been so long. He's actually a member of the Greater Unity Network. Let me check my WhatsApp. I closed down my WhatsApp earlier, but I can restart it.
Okay.
They can say hi if they.
I'm just restarting my WhatsApp. It's going to take a little bit of a while to get this going. Hopefully we will start this presentation fairly soon.
That's good for me.
In the meantime, perhaps we could
Hello.
have any new members, new people on our call today this week. And I had mentioned Bilo Berry. I don't recognize Bilo. Perhaps also Emma Kimani. and Crystal Brown, actually. Yeah.
Oui,
Crystal?
oui, on connaissait déjà.
It's always
Hello.
always makes me happy to hear or to see some new faces on our calls.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello,
Oh,
Crystal.
so hi.
Yes.
I'm from Englewood, New Jersey, and I manage we have 3 community gardens here in Englewood.
Uh-huh.
I am Lenape
Amiabi.
Turtle Tribe. And well, I am so glad to find this and be here. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
I'm happy, glad to have support.
mhm. Actually, I learned yesterday from the manager of we do have an Indigenous Global Unity Network, sub-network, probably the larger Global Unity Network. But I learned yesterday that the manager of the Indigenous Global Unity Network, who also, if you look, there's a gentleman that just came on, Julian Rodriguez. I believe he's in California. You see the logo there, that green background with the feather. That is called the Indigenous Unity flag. And so the gentleman who invented that flag is the manager of our Indigenous Unity Network. And
Yeah, see,
so yesterday I learned from him that he is moving forward to establish Indigenous ambassadors from around the world to support this network and our programs as well. So we are on that path to establishing a global Indigenous Unity Network to bring all of the Indigenous communities together in a powerful organization. Hopefully that will have, ideally will eventually have standing at the United Nations as an organization, as powerful, hopefully, as sort of the Commonwealth of Nations or these other historical organizations that are rooted in the colonialism of our history.
She was about to say something, Lloyd. Please go right ahead. Lloyd,
Oh,
10
I
seconds
just
before
wanted to
vote.
say, I love what you said with the idea of leaving no one behind. That just really struck my heart. And I love that, because that's what we want to do. You know, so many have been. And so that is our goal, to leave no one behind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not our idea. I mean, we are actually borrowing so many concepts from the United Nations, from the UN Global Compact, from different organizations where we are exchanging ideas and using those that work best for us, and even coming up with our own concepts. For instance, I used to say we support the least developed countries, but it wasn't good enough for what we wanted to do. We want to support the least developed countries, communities, and economies. So the local communities, the different organizations that have their own, let's say, small economies, where we have perhaps a global network, but it's small.
Excuse me,
for
Lloyd,
instance,
could you check on your,
between
Lloyd, could you check on your presentation on your guests to see if they need anything or what status they're in, please?
Well, I was just starting my WhatsApp earlier. Let's see.
Thank you.
Faraha, are you able to present right now? Are you set up? Yes.
I'm actually. Is she still on the call?
Yeah, they're still on the call. Are you ready to present right now, Faraha?
Yes. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Whenever you're ready, you can share your screen.
So we are ready. We don't know if it's we who are going to show the file to present, because we have already sent it. We have already sent it, I think, last days.
You sent it to Lloyd?
Yes, we sent it. Yes, we sent it to Lloyd.
Okay, did you want me to share the presentation then?
Yes, yes, that's what they want.
Okay.
We thought that we could be speaking, and then Lloyd is presenting the file.
Okay, let me just check my inbox.
Okay. So if you want to begin speaking, you can, or if you want to wait for Lloyd to find it, whichever you prefer.
Je vais commencer à
Actually-
parler
So I want to start speaking.
et on fait passer le PowerPoint. J'ai préparé ça, mais la machine est en train de...
So dear Lord
D'amener
will
beaucoup
be
de problèmes.
driving the file I sent to him.
Mais je vais parler, mon interprète en
So I'll
anglais.
be speaking and my interpreter will be traducing in English.
Ainsi,
Unfortunately, I do not see anything in my inbox for this.
concernant le PowerPoint, ça est là. Laisse-moi regarder, je vais les...
Let me check how to present the PowerPoint now.
On prépare ça pour moi.
So they are checking it for me. How I'm going to present the PowerPoint.
Là où je suis,
So where I am,
on est en train de m'aider parce que là, je n'avais pas de machine.
they are helping me because I'm not used on the machine.
Ainsi, celui qui est connecté va m'aider à présenter ça.
Someone is helping me to present it.
Ainsi,
This is my
If you can get it onto your computer, you can share screen. Do you know how to do that? How to share screen?
Looks like he's already
Yep.
started sharing.
There
She's
you
already
go.
started. Yeah, there we go.
So it's like this. So can I start now?
Yes, go ahead. Perfect.
alors je peux commencer.
So I'm happy. So and I'm gonna start.
Respectueux membres de la direction mondiale du UnityNet dans différents pays,
So my very respectable members of Global United Network
distingués membres du comité continental Unite Afrique,
and all the members of the Global United in Africa,
distingués membres du comité national Unite dans la République démocratique du
all my
Congo,
dear members in DRC,
mesdames et messieurs, à vos titres et qualités
brothers
respectifs,
and sisters,
je vous
I
salue.
do respect you and I greet you.
Je m'appelle Furaha Kakunyo,
So I'm called Furaha.
congolaise,
So I'm Congolese.
via
I'm
Bukavu,
from Bukavu, DRC,
Sud Kivu.
and South Kivu.
Je suis une femme entrepreneur.
So I try to do some entrepreneurship,
Je suis la vice-présidente du Global United en République
and I'm
démocratique
a
du Congo,
co-president of Global United Network in DRC.
représentante et fondatrice de la communauté qu'on appelle
I
CEPAS,
also lead CEPAS community.
pasteur responsable de l'église Sion CEPAS à Bukavu,
I'm a responsible pastor of the church,
et
as you
coordinatrice
can see there.
et coordinatrice et fondatrice de l'association
Also,
appelée
the coordinator and founder of the AHIABGA-TV.
Action des femmes vulnérables. AHIABGA
means Vulnerable Fund.
Action des femmes.
This organization I'm leading is Vulnerable Women's Actions for Development
Pour la paix et le développement
and Peace.
durable. Je vous remercie de m'avoir accordé ce temps
Thank you for giving me this time
pour vous parler de la réalité de la femme
to
congolaise,
show you realities about DRC women,
surtout à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo.
and especially those in the Eastern DRC.
Je vais parler de l'Est de la République démocratique du
So
Congo.
I'm gonna speak about vulnerable women in the Eastern DRC.
Le titre est la
The
marginalisation de la
title
femme
is the
vulnérable
marginalization of vulnerable and
autochtone
indigenous women
à
in the
l'Est de la
Eastern
République démocratique
DRC.
du Congo. En réalité,
Really?
les réalités liées au problème de la marginalisation de la femme sont différentes d'une nation à une autre.
Vulnerable women and the indigenous women are marginalized differently from one country to
En
another.
République démocratique du Congo, ces réalités
In DRC,
qui freinent
it is really a reality
le système du développement
that cause development
ne
to
laisse pas la femme autochtone
calm
indifférente.
down, and it is really some creating problems to women.
Son intégration au processus et dialogue d'intervention sur les questions du genre
So,
et son encadrement reste une théorie sans fait.
so authorities always speak and try to manage with some laws, but they haven't yet succeeded on giving the woman his good place in the society.
Malgré l'existence de plusieurs textes sur les questions du genre, la femme autochtone congolaise
So we have gotten many laws in our country,
à l'est de la République démocratique du
but
Congo
in the Eastern DRC,
reste victime de plusieurs
those
problèmes
laws never help
qui mettent sa vie en
the
danger
indigenous women
et constituent au goulot d'étranglement pour son
to
épanouissement.
live as in a well-pleasing life as she wanted to live.
Dans notre pays,
So in our country,
la femme est comme un arbre mal planté
the women is like a tree bud planted,
à
as you
cause de
can
sa
see,
marginalisation.
because he's so marginalized.
Elle souffre plus que l'homme.
So he's suffering more than men.
La plante, l'arbre mal planté,
So as you can see, a tree badly planted
ne donne pas de bons fruits.
can't bear good fruits.
C'est pour cela que dans la République démocratique du Congo,
This is why in DRC,
et précisément à l'Est,
especially in the Eastern
la
DRC,
femme est très marginalisée.
the women is very marginalized.
C'est ce qui crée la haine,
That is creating many conflicts,
l'injustice,
injustice,
les viols,
even raping
les détournements,
and loss of money,
les bandes armées partout qui font des guerres.
many army groups that are
Il y a les
causing
immigrations
wars,
massives
and people are leaving villages
vers les
and
villes et vers les pays
many
étrangers.
parts of the country. They decide to
La destruction
in
de la faune et
strange
flore, ainsi de
country.
suite.
So also the vegetations are destroyed.
Cela sont parce que la femme
All these consequences
est la mère de la nation.
are breaking out because the women hasn't yet gotten
Et
her
telle qu'elle est
place,
la mère de la nation,
and because she's the mother of nation,
elle est considérée à un arbre mal planté.
so she's taken as a tree badly planted.
Et c'est pour cela que ses fruits
This is why her fruits
produisent des actions qui ne sont pas bonnes.
are producing actions that are not treating the problem of development in DRC.
Si nous allons au niveau des familles,
So
ici à l'est de la
if you
République
can
démocratique
try
du
to
Congo,
take to considerate the situation in the Eastern DRC,
la femme congolaise autochtone,
so the indigenous woman,
dès le bas âge jusqu'à la vieillesse,
from the time he is born up to his old age,
elle est chargée de toutes les activités
she is
domestiques.
charged of all household activities,
Et les hommes ne restent que pour les loisirs.
but men are they only for leisure activities.
Ces fondements des actes et pratiques journalières du genre sont l'émanation
As you can see, everything she's doing
des coutumes et traditions,
are accepted
des
in
préjugés,
the society, and
des
she's
préjugés,
suffering
des habitudes
some behavior
et des doctrines
and something accepted even in many society laws.
La femme autochtone est celle qui est chargée de nourrir la famille.
The indigenous woman is considered as the one to
Elle est
feed
chargée de
the family,
l'agriculture,
so he is obliged to do
des
agriculture,
denrées alimentaires,
to look food for
de
children,
la survie des enfants
to respond to every need of her children,
et leurs souhaits et même de son mari.
even for their good health, even for the health of his husband.
La femme autochtone à l'est de la République
The
démocratique
indigenous
du Congo
woman in the Eastern DRC
souffre beaucoup.
is suffering a lot.
Les quelques données nationales
So
recueillies sur les différentes
some
formes de
national
violence
data collected
faites aux femmes démontrent qu'il y a une forte corrélation entre les violences
are
faites aux femmes
showing that the rapes that are being done against the women
et le sous-développement
is correlated with the fall of the development of the country.
le sous-développement humain,
So this causes the
économique,
development
social,
of human, even the economic
et même sur
development is not
l'infrastructure.
working. Even there is
Tous cela sont
problems,
causés par la marginalisation faite à la
many
femme
problems are caused because the
dans
woman
notre
is
pays,
marginalized
à l'est
in
de la
our
République
country, in the
démocratique
Eastern
du
DRC.
Congo. Ces statistiques montrent comment les femmes
This study shows that women
sont vulnérables
are vulnerable
et cela illustre les nombreux abus commis par les hommes comme les femmes,
and all these
les hommes contre
things
les femmes à cause de la
are being
position
done by men, and this because
dominante
their
conférée
position in the society.
aux hommes par la société et les statuts inférieurs des femmes en République démocratique du
Their
Congo.
place in the society is not yet very known.
En éducation
So about education
et en formation et en information,
and information, also in information,
il est dit qu'éduquer une femme, c'est éduquer toute une
he said
nation.
that to educate a woman is to educate the nation.
Et investir dans les femmes et les filles
And
est l'un des
once
moyens les
we
plus efficaces
invest in women and in girls,
de
this is,
promouvoir le
this
développement.
is a great tool to promote the development.
À cause des injustices et préjugés
But
faits
because of
aux femmes,
injustice and how they are considered in
beaucoup
their
de
society,
filles
many girls
sont analphabètes dans l'Est de la République démocratique
have
du Congo.
missed education
Car elles sont censées de rester à la maison pour garder les bébés lorsque les frères
And as
partent
you
à
can see,
l'école.
they seem to stay at home and keep children while their brothers have gone to school.
Dans d'autres familles,
So in other families,
les filles ne doivent pas étudier car elles seront mariées.
women are supposed to not study because they will get married after.
Et aussi pour celles qui ont eu la chance
And
d'étudier,
even for those women who have
trouver,
studied,
trouver du travail pour une femme n'est pas facile.
finding a job for them is not easy.
Et aussi dans les milieux du travail,
Even for in the working place,
souvent les femmes touchent moins que les hommes.
women get a few salaries than men
Et occupent des places inférieures dans des sociétés.
and are not taking the highest places in society.
Le manque d'accès aux technologies de
The
l'information
lack of access also on information and
et de la
technologies,
communication
even on communication tools,
est un autre élément clé de la marginalisation de la femme.
is another thing which express the marginalization of women.
Même si les modèles varient considérablement selon les pays et les communautés,
Even if this is different from a country to another,
les femmes africaines ont moins accès que les hommes à la radio,
African women have gotten a little access on
aux
information,
journaux,
on journals,
au téléphone mobile et à
even
l'Internet.
on mobile phones, even on internet.
Selon les résultats d'une étude de 2010,
Many studies have been done
les femmes africaines ont 23% de chances que les hommes
showing that African women
de posséder un appareil de téléphone mobile.
are really suffering from
Et
that
plus
lack
grave
of
dans les milieux de l'Est de la
communication
République
tools. And
démocratique
this is so
du Congo.
showed really significantly in the Eastern DRC.
Et même lorsque la famille est en possession de ces sources d'information,
Even when the family has gotten some communication
ce sont
tools
souvent
and
bien les
technology
hommes qui
infrastructures,
réglementent l'accès.
it is men who are taking possess and using those things.
C'est la raison par laquelle la femme
This
congolaise
is the reason
autochtone,
that the indigenous women in
et en
DRC,
particulier celle de l'Est de la République
especially
démocratique,
the Eastern DRC women,
acquis souvent un défi en matière de formation. Acquise souvent un
are
défi
suffering from the lack of information,
en matière
informatic
d'information.
tools.
La manque d'accès à l'information et au conseil sur les services publics,
They don't find their place in public services.
les conditions du marché et sur les conditions météorologiques.
In many ways, they miss access.
Les femmes sont souvent exclues des campagnes publiques d'information et d'éducation organisées par les
In terms
gouvernements.
of education or public services that the government is taking, so women are not considered.
Et les organismes communautaires
So also some international organizations also are not taking as they could do.
leur accès aux services financiers offerts par les canaux de la téléphonie mobile est également problématique.
Their financial access or restrictive access on financial means are very restricted.
La possession d'un appareil téléphone mobile rassure les femmes et leur permet de trouver des activités génératrices de revenus.
The fact of missing the informatic tools cause them to stay in poverty.
Ainsi, la femme autochtone vulnérable de l'Est de la République démocratique du Congo
And if the indigenous women in the Eastern DRC
une fois trouvé l'accès aux moyens de
could
s'informer
find access
et d'être informée,
and be informed,
elle peut vite se développer
she can develop herself
et la République démocratique du Congo aura un changement positif
quickly, and she
pour
will
le
also
développement.
she will also contribute on developing the whole country.
C'est ainsi que nous trouvons que
So this is why we are finding that
la femme autochtone à l'Est du Congo
the indigenous woman in the Eastern DRC
a toujours des problèmes.
has gotten many problems.
Dans nos sociétés
So
congolaises,
in our societies,
souvent les femmes autochtones sont utilisées mais pas associées.
so indigenous women are used in economics and other ways, but they are not associated.
Au niveau gouvernemental
So at the governmental level
de notre pays,
of our
jusqu'au
country,
niveau local,
up to the local level,
la représentation des femmes au poste de décision sont
so
minimes
women are not
et
represented
parfois néantes.
on the level of decision.
Les institutions,
So at the institutions,
les ONG
on international organizations,
et les associations avancées dans notre pays
even in different associations in our country,
sont pour les hommes.
they concern men.
C'est pour cela que les femmes sont toujours en abaisse,
This is why
les
women
femmes, les hommes
are decreasing,
au niveau.
but men are
Très
increasing in their lives.
Et c'est pour cette raison qu'il y a une pauvreté dans notre pays.
And this is one of the facts that the country is increasing in poverty,
Et en particulier à l'est de la République
and
démocratique.
especially this
du
is
Congo.
seen in the Eastern DRC.
Il faut promouvoir la femme autochtone
So if the indigenous women is promoted,
qui est vulnérable,
the vulnerable one,
toute la nation sera promise
all the nation will be promoted,
et le développement durable aura lieu.
and the sustainable development could get place.
Si nous regardons ici,
So if you try to see these images,
la femme sans travail
so when there is no one access on financial
et l'homme sans
services,
travail,
both women and men,
Mais la femme se donne pour débrouiller.
Women will try to make some little activities,
Et la famille vit.
and the family will live.
Donc, sans travail même, sans moyen financier, la femme produit des
If you
fruits.
try to see those indigenous women try to produce some fruit, even if they don't have access
les-
on financial
Les hommes ici chez nous
resources.
restent toujours comme ça.
But men, if they don't have access on financial services, they do nothing.
Une fois, il y a moyen financier pour la femme
So once women,
et pour l'homme,
so
une fois,
once,
il y a moyen financier pour l'homme,
so once the man has gotten access on financial
on les trouve
means,
toujours au même niveau que la femme qui ne travaille pas.
so we just found him at the same level of women who are not working,
Parce que la femme se débrouille toujours ici
because
chez
the
nous.
women is always on working for
Elle
his
est toujours
family,
avec multiples travaux.
always work for his society.
C'est pour cela que vous voyez la femme avec beaucoup de multiples
This is why
travaux.
you can find women with multiple works.
Pour l'économie,
So for the economy,
les femmes sont des agents fondamentaux,
women
fondamentaux de changement pour lutter contre la pauvreté rurale,
are fundamentally fighting against the rural poverty.
la faim et la malnutrition.
So the famine, even the malnutrition,
L'agriculture
the agriculture.
demeure l'épine dorsale de l'économie congolaise.
So the agriculture is seen that the fundamental work that is
Et emploie plus de
helping
70%
the
de la
society to
population.
survive, and it is using many of the many population.
Si nous retournons ici,
So if you can see the last image
là où il y a accessibilité de financière pour la femme et l'homme,
on the right hand, we can see that there is access of all on financial
vous allez
services.
trouver que même si on a le même salaire,
So you can find that even if the women and the men have gotten the same salary,
la femme produit beaucoup de fruits plus que l'homme.
even if they've gotten all access on financial services,
Les
the
moyens de-
women produce more than men.
Les moyens de la femme aident beaucoup la population et sa famille.
The means of the women are helping more his family and his society
Mais
than
souvent-
the means of men.
Mais souvent, nos hommes ici,
This is, we can see that how men,
leurs moyens se dispersent
so
dans
their
les diverses
means are always
conditions
used
qui n'arrivent pas à la famille.
in ways that doesn't help more the society, even their households.
Les femmes jouent un rôle majeur dans l'économie agricole
Women
à
are
l'est de
playing
la
a
République
major
démocratique du Congo.
work in the economy of DRC.
Elles constituent pratiquement les 2 tiers de la main-d'œuvre agricole
Really, they are supposed to be more invested in agricultural works,
et produisent la majorité des denrées alimentaires
produce
du
most
pays.
of the food that is feeding the whole country.
Or, dans le secteur agricole,
So in the agricultural sector,
les femmes ont très peu accès aux intrants essentiels
women
que sont
have not gotten a great access
la terre,
on the land,
les crédits,
on credit,
les engrais,
on biological,
les nouvelles
tools,
technologies
on new technology,
et les services de
structures,
vulgarisation.
even on spreading information tools.
Ce qui fait toujours que la femme autochtone à l'est de la
These
République
problems causes
démocratique du
that
Congo
the indigenous women in the Eastern DRC
reste sur la même position.
staying at the same consideration.
Elle est toujours marginalisée.
She's always marginalized.
Pour cette raison,
For this reason,
les rendements sont nettement plus faibles que ceux des hommes.
they produce less than men.
Du fait que les activités agricoles de la femme autochtone à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo
So those agricultural activities of women in the Eastern DRC
sont négligées
are very neglected
et non renforcées.
and are not helped.
La malnutrition,
So the malnutrition,
la pauvreté
missing of food, the poverty,
et les multiples problèmes d'insécurité ne
many
cesseront
society problems,
pas dans notre
we think they will
pays.
never stop
Les,
because the women is not well considered.
les femmes congolaises autochtones sont à la fois économiquement actives et très investies.
So there seems to be, so women, indigenous women in the Eastern DRC are very invested
Dans l'entrepreneuriat.
in entrepreneurship,
Malheureusement,
but
on ne les retrouve que dans les micro-entreprises du secteur
always
informel.
find them doing only little activities that are insignificant.
Où elles travaillent dans des activités à faible valeur ajoutée.
They're working on some activities in which they don't gain more,
Et aux rendements marginaux.
and on production that can't resolve the problem of the society.
Elles ont tendance à être entrepreneurs par nécessité,
They try to do some entrepreneurship
plus que par choix.
because they see the necessity, but they are not chosen to do
Pousser vers
it.
les petits commerces par l'absence d'alternatives.
They try to look some selling activities for developing their
C'est
households.
ce que nous avons vu là en haut avec une femme
So
qui porte son
this
commerce
is
sur la
what we
tête.
can see on this image, where this woman is doing many activities and is getting something on her head.
C'est ainsi que sont les femmes de notre
This is how
pays à l'est de la République démocratique
women
du
are
Congo.
living in the Eastern DRC.
La marginalisation de la femme autochtone de la République
How the women is so marginalized in our country
est l'obstacle majeur du développement durable
is really the obstacle of our
ici chez nous.
sustainable development in our country.
Tel qu'un arbre mal planté ne donne pas de bons fruits.
As a tree badly planted can't bear good fruits,
Tel qu'une femme marginalisée ne peut pas donner de bons
so
enfants.
we understand that a marginalized women can't bear many production or many changements in the country.
Voilà la cause majeure des multiples problèmes dans notre pays.
This is one of the source of many problems in our country.
C'est pour cela qu'il y a dans notre pays, ici à l'Est, beaucoup de haine.
Now you can find in our eastern regions
L'injustice à
many
tous les
conflicts,
niveaux,
injustice,
les vols,
robbing,
les viols
raping,
et les violences sexuelles,
even sexual rapes,
les détournements,
the loss of money,
la corruption,
corruption,
les guerres répétées
many wars,
avec des bandes armées partout,
then with army groups,
les enlèvements de personnes exagérées,
people are being killed,
les immigrations vers les villes et les pays étrangers.
others are leaving our country for looking
Et
a good
plusieurs,
life in strange countries,
et plusieurs
and many
problèmes.
other problems.
Par conséquent,
So,
ou comme conséquence
as
de
consequences
cet arbre mal planté qui est la
of
femme
that tree
congolaise
badly
marginalisée,
planted, which is the DRC women,
il y a un accroissement de la pauvreté,
there is the increasing of poverty.
la présence de beaucoup de veuves,
We can see everywhere the presence of many widows
et orphelins,
and orphans.
les handicapés physiques et moraux,
So we can see everywhere handicapped women, so physical and moral handicapped,
les femmes violées,
raped women,
les filles mères,
even other girls who are sexually raped.
la présence de beaucoup d'enfants de la rue.
So also other children left in the road.
Il y a beaucoup de SIDA et d'autres maladies liées
And
à la
many
pauvreté.
other illnesses which are coming from poverty.
En observant un arbre bien planté,
So let's look at a tree well planted,
où tout être recourt à la recherche de la vie,
where many persons are looking for life.
ainsi le monde, et en particulier l'Est de la République démocratique du Congo,
So the whole world, and especially the Eastern DRC,
de bons fruits.
So the women now will have to produce good fruits.
Et tout le monde va y recourir.
Everyone will start searching for these
Car un
fruits.
arbre bien planté,
Because for a tree well planted,
toute la vie est là.
we can find the life.
Et tout le monde recourt à un arbre bien planté parce qu'il donne des bons fruits.
And every person will go and look for fruit.
Mais le problème majeur chez nous, c'est la marginalisation des femmes qui c'est à ce que le problème ne se limite
But
pas dans
the
notre pays.
problem of non-sustainable development in our country is the marginalization of women.
Pour arriver à un développement durable,
So for reaching the sustainable development,
il est beau de s'attaquer aux nombreux obstacles que franchissent les
we
femmes
have to treat obstacles that are facing women
sur le marché du travail,
on the working place
en fait de leur éviter les pièges
and
des emplois
everywhere for helping them
informels,
that they may start working formal works,
peu reconnus,
even works that will be well known,
non qualifiés
and the works that are gonna be qualified,
et mal rémunérés,
and also they need to be well paid.
et sans aucune protection juridique ou sociale.
Also, they will need a good social protection.
Arriver à un développement durable,
So for reaching the sustainable development,
il faut mettre la disposition d'égalité
we are saying that we have to make the equality between men and women
au service.
in every level.
Si nous regardons ici,
So we try to check on this image.
l'homme,
The man
il est bien payé,
in our country has gotten formal works and
mais la
well paid,
femme
but the woman is not well paid.
n'est pas bien payée.
Even she has gotten formal works.
Avec cette inégalité,
So with this inequality,
le Congo ne peut pas avancer.
nothing can help the country to increase or to go ahead.
Ainsi,
So
une mise à disposition égalitaire des services et infrastructures qui permettront aux femmes d'améliorer leur accès à l'éducation,
if we try to work on helping women to get access on education
et aux ressources productives,
and on productive resources,
assurer ça à la femme autochtone, le Congo sera bien.
and try to help the indigenous women, the country will work well.
Donc, renforcer leurs connaissances,
So we have to bring them forward
leurs compétences
to help their knowledges, their works,
et leurs aptitudes.
even everything they are doing. They
Arriver à
support.
cela,
So for doing this,
l'inscription dans le cadre de l'engagement du programme 2022-2030 de UNITE
so the program from 2022 up to 2030 of Global Unite Network
et de ne laisser personne à côté
of never leaving anyone aside
sera atteint.
will be achieved.
C'est ainsi
This is why
qu'une fois que la femme est bien gérée
if women are well considerated,
et elle doit produire des bons fruits.
she will bear good fruits,
Et tous ces problèmes finiront au Congo.
and all those problems in the Eastern DRC will be reduced and will finish.
Ainsi,
So
les enfants auront aussi une génération très bonne.
even the children will will live good, well.
C'est ainsi que la FEVIPED
So in this way, our organization called AHIABGA-TV is now doing some activities
trouver les situations difficiles dans lesquelles la femme autochtone se trouve
So we have tried to seek what situation the women in the Eastern DRC
et
is found,
de ma part ici
and
où je vous
especially
parle,
for myself was speaking to you.
j'ai passé beaucoup de difficultés
So I've been facing many difficulties
à cause de la
because
marginalisation.
of being marginalized.
Nous nous sommes mis ensemble
So we have created a group, an organization, an
And-
association,
et nous avons créé cette
and we
association.
have made this AHIABGA-TV,
Action des femmes vulnérables unies pour la paix et le développement durable à
Vulnerable Women's Action for Sustainable Development,
pour lutter contre la discrimination faite à la femme au Congo.
for fighting against all discrimination against women in DRC.
Et avec nos actions,
And with many actions we are working,
amener le monde en développement durable
we want to bring the world in its sustainable
et en
development,
particulier notre cher pays, la
and
République démocratique.
especially our loved
Congo.
country, DRC, the DRC.
À cela, nous allons vous présenter
So now we try to present some
les activités font par les femmes
that women are trying to do
dans notre association AHIABGA-TV.
through this association called AHIABGA-TV.
À cela, comme activité,
So for these activities,
nous œuvrons dans l'environnement,
so we are doing some environmental activities.
dans l'éducation,
So we are doing education such as you
tel
can see,
que vous voyez.
as you can see.
Nous avons une petite école où nous gardons les enfants
On the
orphelins
left hand, you can
et
see
ces enfants
that
en
we've
situation
gotten
difficile.
a primary school in which we are trying to support studies of orphans and other children who are living in difficulty.
Car ici, chez nous, nous avons beaucoup d'enfants
Because here in the Eastern
dont les
DRC,
parents sont morts
there are many children left by their
pendant la
parents.
guerre.
Some, their children were died in many wars that have been breaking out in the Eastern DRC.
D'autres enfants qui sont nés de violences
Other
sexuelles,
children are born from sexual
les enfants sans
rapes.
père.
Others have never seen their parents.
Sont rejetés.
They were rejected.
C'est pour cela que la FEVIPED
So our association, our,
occupe ces enfants dans cette petite
we
école.
are trying
Et
to
des
help those
awards.
children in this little
Mais
school.
une fois trouvé les moyens,
But when we are, as we are finding money,
c'est bien de créer
we are willing to create
des orphelinats partout dans la République démocratique
many
du Congo,
orphanages around the country
là où il y a beaucoup de guerres,
where there are many wars,
d'injustice,
where there is injustice,
pour voir comment encadrer ces enfants,
to see how to deal with those children.
à ce qu'ils ne se délaissent pas y aller dans la rue,
They may not be lost
et d'autres former des bandes armées
and become people who will bring more difficulties for the
car
country.
leurs mères sont marginalisées.
And all this because their moms were marginalized.
La FEVIPED
So this association
donne
AHIABGA
encore la chance
is giving some chances
aux filles et femmes qui n'ont pas eu la chance d'étudier dès les bas
for
âges
women, so for moms and girls who haven't
en alphabétisation.
who didn't get education in their it's a given time. So
Pour voir,
they try to work with them in alphabetization
pour voir comment même elles peuvent savoir écrire leur nom.
to see how they'll be able to write their names and try to defend themselves in the society.
Et cela, c'est beau de l'épanouir dans tout l'Est du Congo et
And
partout
that
dans la
is so
République
important
démocratique.
to help them in their lives in DRC.
De cela, la FEVIPED
So also the AHIABGA
a comme activité
is doing other activities
c'est qu'il travaille sur la pacification et les droits humains,
such as working for the human rights,
l'assistance aux femmes vulnérables et
also
marginalisées
assisting marginalized and vulnerable women,
et orphelins.
orphans and widows.
Chez nous, beaucoup de femmes sont déjà handicapées à cause
So as you can see in our country, many women
de ces marginalisations faites à elles.
are handicapped, are stressed in life because they are so marginalized.
D'autres femmes sont stressées
Others are really stressed
et perdent la connaissance
And what we can see is the lack of common sense
à cause de la
because
marginalisation.
they are so generalized.
Tel que l'une d'ici était
Such
notre
as you
ami.
can see the
Perdu la
so
connaissance.
she has lost her common sense.
La FEVIPED continue à
So the
assister
prepared is continuing to make an
ces
assistance
femmes en situation
toward
difficile.
those women.
Même les autres
Is trying to find food for orphans.
Ensemble.
We pray together
nous leur donner des formations,
and we are trying to form them
comment un orphelin peut se prendre en charge
how an orphan can take himself in charge
et en trouver peu de nourriture.
and
pour
looking
eux.
some food for them.
La FEVIPED ne se limite pas,
So the FVP is not only doing this,
elles continuent toujours à encadrer
so we continue
orphelins.
also to take care of raped women and orphans born.
qui sont à l'école pour la fourniture scolaire.
So we also try to look some practice, some school infractions.
À notre niveau, nous n'avons pas encore eu la chance de faire des
Our
orphelinats et
level, we
garder
haven't
ces
yet
enfants.
gotten the chance of making orphanages and keep those children.
Les enfants restent toujours dans des
Those
familles
children are still
où ils sont gardés.
in families where they are kept.
Il y a cette femme
As you can see at the right
veuve
hand, that widow
est rejetée par sa famille.
was rejected by her family,
Que la FEVIPED, en collaboration avec la CEPAS,
and we are trying with our CEPAS community
continue à garder
to keep to feed,
Ainsi, ce sont les activités de la,
and these are such activities we are doing in our
de la
association,
FEVIPED.
in the prepared
La FEVIPED continue à former
So also we are forming women,
les femmes et les orphelins
women and orphans
en activités génératrices de revenus,
on self-sufficiency activities,
telles qu'ici la fabrication de savons,
such as making soaps,
la fabrication de paniers,
such as making baskets,
et ainsi de suite,
sewing, and so on.
pour les montrer comment ils doivent s'autoprendre en
So
charge.
to show them how they can take themselves in charge.
C'est ainsi que la formation
So their formation
se fait en AFEVIPED.
is regularly being done in a prepared.
La FEVIPED ne laisse pas à former les femmes pour la lutte contre la pauvreté et la
So
sécurité
we also
alimentaire.
form them for fighting against the poverty, also the lack of food.
C'est ainsi qu'elle s'occupe de l'agriculture,
So we are trying to work with vulnerable and indigenous women in agriculture,
l'élevage.
in breeding,
Ici, nous avons
even in agriculture.
alors à cela, les femmes de l'action, les femmes de la FEVIPED,
So after prepared women
avec leurs actions,
with their actions
luttent contre toujours la
are fighting
pauvreté.
against poverty.
En groupe, ils forment une petite coopérative appelée
So they have
avec
made
en milieu,
a saving cooperative called AHIABGA,
où les femmes se mettent ensemble
in which women are united
à microcrédit
and they try to mix
pour
something
voir comment
together.
sauver
So this AHIABGA is helping
leurs
them
activités.
for doing some simple trades.
Sur l'environnement,
Also on the environmental aspect.
les femmes de la FEVIPED avec leurs
So,
enfants
of prepared women, even their children,
luttent contre la dégradation de
deciding also
l'environnement
to
et le
keep on
réchauffement
fighting
climatique
against the global warming.
en plantant les arbres
So they do activities of reforestation
et cherchent comment faire partout où il n'y a pas d'arbres
and look how
et trouver des arbres.
they can plant trees where trees are being cast out.
Nous avons été très contentes
So we were so happy
de trouver que dans Unite,
we were so happy to find that in Unite we could get
nous allons planter des arbres fruitiers.
we could get a place. Even we were so interested that in United we have been encouraged in planting trees.
Cela nous a fait réjouir.
So many things in United. Global United Network is rejoicing us
Parce qu'à cause de cela,
because of
nous savons bien que toutes ces femmes
so we know that all these women
auront beaucoup de nourriture pour les enfants.
will get enough food for the children.
Et la malnutrition ne sera plus là.
The malnutrition will not be anymore.
C'est ainsi que nous travaillons dans notre
This
association.
is how we are trying to work against
Et nous vous remercions de
this
nous avoir donné
problem.
cette place
We thank you very much for giving us this opportunity
pour vous expliquer des problèmes
for
que nous avons à
expressing
l'Est.
many difficulties we are facing
Mais
in
nous
the Eastern
connaissons
DRC.
qu'ensemble,
Yet we do recognize that together
il y aura un changement positif.
there will be a positive changement.
Et avec la femme
And with women,
de la FEVIPED,
with women of our association,
j'espère avec leurs actions,
we hope really in their actions
toute la République démocratique du
that
Congo
the whole country
sera dans le développement
will
durable.
be in sustainable
Et
development.
pourquoi pas dans le monde entier.
And why not the whole world?
Ensemble,
Together,
nous allons faire quelque chose.
we will do great things.
Je suis vraiment très ravi
I'm very pleased
de me donner cette place et trouver là où je peux m'exprimer
to get this place of expressing myself
parce que c'est longtemps nous vivons dans la
ourselves
marginalisation.
because it is so long time we are living in marginalization.
Trouver une place parmi les hommes et les
Finding a
femmes du
place
monde,
between men and women of the whole world
là où on peut s'exprimer,
where we can express ourselves,
c'est une grande chance.
it's really a great chance.
Ainsi, je remercie
So I do thank
à notre comité mondial de Unite
our Global Unite Network Committee
de nous avoir donné ce temps,
for giving us this opportunity
de nous exprimer.
expressing ourselves.
Que Dieu vous bénisse.
May God bless you.
Amen.
Amen.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you very much. That was such an important presentation today. One of the things that I got from that actually is I think it's really very important to, especially to engage the men in the changes that are required to be made.
Merci.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking I could probably go on to do more of my presentation, but I think today we have so many people on the call that it may be a good idea if we actually go ahead and go directly to some questions and answers for AHA. And also people could briefly introduce themselves, especially if they are new members or new participants in this Global Unity.
You have several hands.
Events. Yes, so I'm seeing Erwan Rosli. He's in the top corner for me.
Yes, I appreciate very much. Very important presentation on this one that for all of us. I have a couple questions. One of them is, what happens if we are focused at the present time, mainly, I'm talking about mostly, women activities, such as, like you mentioned about making soap, maybe making clothing, maybe nursing training, maybe other activities that focus mainly at women, maybe some men including, but most of them women, and then we focus to that activity so that they can get good pay, they can get a good maybe enterprise making money. We focus that so that and then start slowly spreading to other program that including men as we progress. And as I mentioned in my program, also we emphasize on the transparency in this situation, in this enterprise, in this program. We open up everything from budgeting, from operational, from detail aspect of every operation as well as stakeholder. Again, this is a application on the transparency practice, so everybody aware. And I think it's very important also for the marginalized people, like the orphan, as well as the woman, the widow. Maybe we can have some kind of some external funding for those people that we need to help directly. So I'm talking about maybe some continuous small, maybe external funding to these marginalized people that they cannot do much, including the education of the orphan. Thank you.
Yes, of course, we would all like to have funding to do the projects we'd like to do, but we need to come together first. I believe in this Unity network, present ourselves to those who have some funding for these kinds of things, with clear plans for what we are going to do with that funding, of course. And so this is actually the process that we're attempting to develop, to put together the business plans and to assist others in these local communities to support them and create networks.
You have other hands raised, Floyd.
Mm-hmm. So Jean-Baptiste or Juliet?
And please introduce your name so we can identify you as we go forward. We have a global audience, so it's important for us to hopefully be able to distinguish who's speaking. And if you have an organization, that as well. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Juliet Miabo. I'm from, I wear a few hats, but I'm from Soweto CSI Council. And Towards and Kids, we also work on programs for women that are called Imbogoto or Mandla. Firstly, let me thank Madam Farah and your interpreter. Thank you so much. I'm one of those people who get very close to tears very quickly, mainly because the issues that you raised about the women in the DRC are so similar to what women go through in the different parts of the world. I mean, when you speak to women in India, women even in the US or anywhere else, women face similar challenges. And it is just said that in countries like yourself, maybe you are not even protected by policy and the law. At least in a country like South Africa, we are still protected by law and policies. First, we want to commend you for the work that you're doing. And then I know that it's easy to jump in terms of projects and possible solutions, but I feel that it's important that we recognize the pain that women that you're speaking of, the psychosocial pain, the mental health problems that they face and that they suffer, that it's easy for us to overlook as a global society. And so as much as women need the other social and economic interventions, let us not underestimate the importance of psychosocial and mental health. I mean, in South Africa, we have women in other countries passing away in their 70s without having had the help to deal with the pain of rape, the help to deal with things that happened to them when they were small, and that will also help them to give them the strength to build on the various projects and the interventions that we look at doing. We commend you and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet. such an important part, such an important aspect of the programs. And I'm sure that people like Stephanie would agree as well, our Learning Network manager. I did see a hand up earlier.
Prophet.
The
Did you want
prophet's
to
hand
go?
is up.
Prophet.
Yes, my hand is up. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much for, is it Ferrara? Thank you so much for that presentation. It's, and I second what Juliet said, because again, growing up in America as one of 3 girls, the expectation was to get married and not worry about anything. And so what I find as I get older, that I'm 72 now, is that this business of racism, of course, is a horrible thing, has been responsible for a lot of death and horrific treatment, yet patriarchy is older than racism. So I agree with Lloyd that this is a male problem. It's a female problem because it's first the male problem. The rapes and the continued subjugation of women has involved some mental health changes for men. It just has to. And so the work that I do, I'm Prophet Anyanu Cox. I'm in the United States, and I'm an affiliate with something called the Association of Black Psychologists, but I also worked over 30 years in mental health and psychiatric nursing. I'm a registered nurse. And so I've seen a lot in mental health. And so one of the changes for the women, but again, the problem is a mental health problem for men as well. The idea that women are less than, sometimes it's tied to religion. So it's also a religious problem. And so somehow that's a whole, and the problem of patriarchy and the domination of men over women is very old. The idea of white supremacy is old, but I don't think it's as old as men dominating women. I don't know. I think the patriarchy trumps the racism. I hate to say that, but I think if we tackled patriarchy, we would have cut the head off the snake of racism. That's just a new idea that I have. But the idea that, because this idea that somebody must be superior is a problem. It's just a problem. And I'm not going to start preaching about it, but I do mental health healing circles. We do them for all kinds of things. I'm part of different organizations that do them. And so what I know for sure, even from the standpoint of science, is that in terms of health and well-being, the very DNA is shaped based on trauma and what we think and feel. So we can change health outcomes just by dealing with stress and trauma. And so some of their organizations that deal with that. So that's something that I would like to put on the table with, along with the fact that I also am a holistic practitioner. So I'm a big advocate of traditional, complementary, integrative, and alternative medicine. So when I see the women out there doing and the farming and agriculture, I think of herbs, and health and well-being. And so there is wealth in the dirt, in the soil, in the plant, in the root, in the bark. If you see a blade of grass out there, count it as money, because there are people making billions around the world with every plant, every leaf, every bark, everything. They found that some dead trees or something in Ecuador gave forth, after 2 years of being dead, released some sap that has a healing property similar to frankincense. So some of these things, sometimes writing, there's a story biblically, and not to get caught up in religion, because religion has been a huge problem in a lot of countries, but there's a story of a widow woman with a son, and she went out and took her and borrowed some bottles, and she poured oil in it, and as long as she poured, it came. So I'm just saying, when I see the grass, if there's possible to even start teaching the women, or get somebody out there to look at with a microscope or whatever they use to examine, because you will find in there some properties that are like gold mines, and then you'll have to fight people off from coming to try to buy it from you. So that's what I would say about some of that. Wherever you see a place where there's that. But the mental health, we like to be able to offer some healing spaces. And like right now you're on Zoom. And so we do Zooms. Since the pandemic has come in, we've been able to do Zooming with people all over the United States. Right now we're Zooming with you, and we're able to just have people come and sit, and it's just a real simple process. We also can train people, and it's just helping people get through the trauma. Doesn't mean the trauma is ending right now, but once you build that inner core, the idea, because after you've been subjugated and you've been traumatized, or we've been traumatized, we've all been traumatized to some degree, but not to the degree that you're talking about. Once you've gone through that, after a while, you think it's you. You think you deserve it. Somehow I'm less than, God is not helping me, but God's helping somebody else. So the whole idea of reframing the mindset and all of that, and knowing that within there's a strength within that cannot be conquered. And so, but getting to that takes some assistance. And so while we're waiting for the men to get together and do some mental health work with the men, we also have men that can work with the men as part of the Association of Black Psychologists. But right now we're talking about the women and this repeated rapes that it's just insane. That's all I can say. It's plain insane. They may not think so, but some of it is tied to religion. So we got to tackle the religious part. I just don't believe, and I could be wrong with the history of Africa, but I believe some of this came in with colonization. And so some of this is as much. Let me just finish this, Andrew. As much as we hate the colonization, we tend to take on attributes of it. So going back and knowing your history of the Congo before some of these things happen. I apologize, Andrew, because you have been very good in allowing me to do certain things. I apologize, so I mute.
Thank you very much, Prophet, though. These are extremely important things.
After Muhammad, I do have a comment, but Muhammad has his hand raised, Lloyd.
Yeah, I've called on Muhammad. We can call on Muhammad again if you're able to unmute. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon once more. I'm very happy. I want to take
your name, please, and where you're from. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mohamed Barry from Guinea Conakry UnityNet work chapter.
Go right ahead. Thank you.
Ready? Okay. I want to give a warm. I want to give a good warm congratulations from DRC with their presentation. It's a very opportunity for us, we Africans, to take this, to put hands across to try to eradicate corruption, because corruption has killed more Africans than the civil war that we are talking of. Because to specify, Guinea here, this is what we are getting challenges from these diagnosed people, because we are forcing their young children to early marriage. This is the problem that we are facing here. But how can we stop that? Gender mutilation. Also, this is another major problem here in Africa, especially in my own country. So these are the problems that we are facing. So through the hands or through Global Unity Network, if we put hands together, we can see how we can eradicate that. Because also we are having problems with this children in marginalized people. If you go around the city, you will see people who slept outside. They have nowhere to sleep. This is the problem that we are facing. But we are not that financially strong to see how we can do that. But we're going to do our presentation as time proceeds. For the mayor part, in the near future, we're going to do our presentation. So we just want to say thank you once more to the DRC people and also to the Global Unity Network for their participation and for their attentive listening for what they are giving to us. So thank you once more.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. I guess you should be able to go ahead, Andrew.
Well, yes, thank you so much. And for those that don't know, I'm Andrew Williams Jr. And technically, this platform is being brought to you by my network, Andrew Networks. But I do want to say that from a psychohistorical point of view, we here in the United States need to have more of this information coming from those places around the world, particularly in Africa, and specifically for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, I was born as an American, so I take full responsibility as an American for being the country or having my representatives, our senators, in 1883 and 1884, being the ones that first acknowledged the ownership of King Leopold of the Congo, that he then took to the Berlin Conference in 1885 1884 and 1885 to collaborate with the Europeans to create what we now have as these artificial boundaries that segment the entire African continent. So here in 2022, the United States has a responsibility to make its own commitment to assist each of you in accomplishing your objectives. I often speak about the United Nations Global Compact. We here are committed to continuing this ongoing narrative throughout this year and next year, specifically because it does overlap the 2021 through 2023 strategy for local networks for the United Nations Global Compact. But they have an African-specific strategy as well. That overlaps with the 2013 through 2023 first 10-year implementation plan of the African Union Agenda 2063. I'll briefly remind you that it is, in fact, the African Union who devised this African Union Agenda 2063 in 2012, in January of 2012, that impacted what we now know as the Sustainable Development Goals that were introduced in September of 2015. That preceded the Paris Climate Agreement. So from a global standpoint, we're now faced with war, as you know, in Russia, but we're also faced with climate chaos around the world. So those people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, particularly the women that are dealing with these issues, are issues that are important to all of us. So we cannot say that we're trying to leave no one behind unless we start with the most vulnerable. So I'm just suggesting to this group and team that we identify and begin right now from those that are most vulnerable, and then work to deliver solutions at that point, and let us create data that shows where we start from and where we go from as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And I'd actually like to, if possible, Erwan is still on the call, hopefully. I would like to introduce Erwan to our friend from DRC. We have Furaha here, but this whole conversation actually did start with Patrick Kaka. I've put into the chat Patrick's coordinates. He is with an organization called the Shabunda Project, Jiri Land Care Network. In the heart of Africa, Les Forêts de la Paix, the Forests of Peace. I got connected to Patrick back when I was doing the original project that we had tried to do in with Biochar Ontario in Prince Edward County, which started off this entire concept of the collaborative tree planting program. It was actually that project that we tried to get going originally, where we planted our very first tree of peace and reconciliation in support of that project, which we wanted to partner at that time with the Canadian government. But of course, the pandemic, COVID-19 came along, so we are regrouping, and hopefully we can get back to that type of conversation, even with our own federal government potentially supporting that type of thing. So I'm seeing Erwan, your hands up again.
Yes, Lloyd, if it is possible, I kind of following up on your comment. I would like to invite actually from DRC, Madam Furaha, if I'm not mistaken. I'm Irwan Rusli from Rusli Institute of Technology in USA. Right now, we are planning to do some kind of gathering, some projects, small, to alleviate poverty, to reduce poverty in many different countries. And we're hoping that DRC may be including in one of this project where you have specific program from you dealing with these marginalized people. And then let's put together a proposal, including in this our get-together project, and then we put forward the uniqueness of our program. One of them is the fact that we are from many different countries and being managed with individual country managers, so that they can focus on maintaining a good quality project. And then at the same time, we can also get together, gathering. I think it's never been done before, where project being gathered together from many different countries and evaluate together, monitor together, and then scheduling us together at the same time. And that also including the transparency aspect of them will probably the most important of the project. So having all this uniqueness, I think we will have a strong point. But again, I would like to emphasize here, let's, like Andrew said, let's start from the bottom up. Let's dealing with the bottom people right now. As I said, the orphanage, the woman who may be a widow or some that has been hurt before, with children. Let's focus on them, the poorest of the poor. And then we'll put together, and then again, we emphasize this transparency aspect, no corruption, no bribery, everything will be in open. So let's do that as soon as possible. I'm hoping that even though we have only a few projects, I would like maybe go ahead and doing it. And then again, as long as everybody agree that this is for the bottom people. So let's do that as soon as possible. I'm thinking maybe by the end of this month, we have put together all the projects from as many countries as possible, because it's manageable. We are only dealing with one manager. And so we have many managers from each country. And this is something that we can work together, really focus together, because we know what we do is an important aspect for the world. Thank you.
So thank you very much again, Irwan. One thing I did notice in Furaha's slides that I was happy to see was this under the slide around self-sufficiency programs. She mentioned breeding, agriculture, and apiculture. And if people are not familiar with apiculture, that is actually the breeding of bees for the production of honey. And I want to let Furaha know that we are proposing now what we call a climate honey project, where we would work with, in particular, with the mining companies and the members of the UN Global Compact in particular, to hopefully obtain some finance, partner with them to demonstrate the restoration of some of the degraded lands that have been impacted by some of the mines around the world, where we can start to restore some of these lands, provide access especially to these lands for the women to actually set up these beehives, to restore those lands with flowers, with meadows, where the bees can use those flowers for the production of honey, and then teach them entrepreneurship skills virtually through the virtual network, as well as hands-on skills through the Unity Gardens. So this is where we would like to see if we can get that type of project and program going also in DRC.
I just really wanted to, my name's Stephanie from Toronto, Canada. I just really wanted to thank Furaha for showing us, for reminding us, you know, we get caught up in our projects, and that, you know, as a woman, as a member of the human species, you know, the pain, you know, we're talking about food security, and often with my Maui Aloha Project Eco Village initiative, we also talk about housing security, but we're not always talking about safety and security. And for so many of the women, and for what you showed us today, it's a reminder that sometimes slips in the Western world, even though there's so much suffering here too for the women and for community members. And what I really liked about your presentation is that it really showcased, you know, because we have this technology at this time in 2022, it really showcased what we can do, how we can communicate, teaching each other, even in the most remote parts of the world. We can teach each other the first and second and third steps that we're taking as individual local communities. And we can really share this with our neighbors, with our neighboring countries, and with our neighboring continents. Also, we can really show visually. We don't have to speak the same language. And if we don't speak the same language, we even have the technology where there's translation software. So from any language in the world, we can translate what we want to say. We can understand what needs to be said. And also through audio visual, which is what we have right now in 2022, such being able to speak to someone in the opposite end of the world, to see you, to feel your heart. This is I think we're in a game-changing time where we really can reach out, and through learning, the Unity Learning Network, a global network that can show people how to sustain themselves with food to start with. How do we begin from the very beginning? And thank you for your presentation. And I really think that we're going to be able to communicate with, all the corners of the world, and really try to uplift the women, the children, and the community, the entire communities. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Those are important words, I think, as well. It reminds me, before I get to you, Juliet, a few years ago, I remember, because my wife is from Taiwan, going back to Taiwan and actually having sort of these conversations with some of her friends and family. But they weren't direct conversations, because what we would do is we would put our smartphone on the table between us, and I would speak in English, and the phone would translate into Chinese. And then they would speak in Chinese, and the phone would translate into English. So we would talk to each other in this way. It was very basic at the time. This was probably 3 years ago at least. But the technologies are definitely evolving, and we'll get more and more real time being able to talk to each other regardless of the language that we speak. So Juliet, you had some more words.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Actually, just briefly, sorry, my phone, this way. What was also about the presentation, it's the whole issue of alphabetization, because we find that in South Africa, illiteracy levels are one of the biggest problems, especially in getting justice for women. As much as you can have access to all sorts of things and you have the law on your side, but if women cannot even read and write, and a lot of the elderly women go through that. So I like the concept of alphabetization, because it's never too late for people to learn. And also the whole ICT approach and interventions, we need to look at that, because as Ewan might agree, is that we can educate women in the most remote of places using some form of technology. Women learning to learn, whether it's alphabets or basic information, because that came out quite strongly in Farah's presentation. Lack of information is one of the biggest problems. So just if we can just hide that in that we look at ICT, and it's I mean we deal with a 62-year-old woman that got raped about 3 weeks ago. Never mind 8-year-old that got raped. And when we go to court, that person has to deal with all sorts of legal jargon. So education of women and information, it's not just about, it's not just a basic right, it's a human right for them to be able to know what is right for them and what can be done. So the whole alpha, but I must just get the word right, alphabetization, I think is a concept we can look at as a way of using ICT to educate women. The same way that we teach our children, the basic ABCs. We have millions of women who need that, so that they don't have to rely on men for interpretation and representation. They can actually even represent themselves in most cases. Thank you again.
Mhm. So this is the purpose, of course, of us trying to move forward to building and establishing the networks and the platforms that will allow the delivery of that. So are there any additional comments or other things that would questions for Raha before we get off? It looks like it's almost 1 o'clock, so I'm not going to continue with my own presentation since it has almost been 2 hours since we got on this call today, even though I could continue probably for another hour. I don't want to keep everybody on this call for too long. I think 2 hours is a good window.
I have a very quick question, if I may.
Go ahead, Prophet.
And I'm new to this forum, so it's the same, I guess, as I asked before. How do we get in touch with Raha? And because I really would like to connect her with some of the mental health services, and they're free, so you don't really need funding for them, but just to be able to give some support around some of the trauma that the women are experiencing.
So we always connect through the Global Unity Network WhatsApp chats. So for Raha, I'm just looking right now, is obviously in the DRC. So we do have a DRC group, but I can also invite her into the women's and feminist network as well. So that is sort of a catch-all group for our, as we call them, female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs to have discussions around the different sort of non-aligned topics where we can just generally have open discussions about whether it's the project or mental health issues or some of the various things that are happening to the people in our network, where they really need to get these off their minds and let people know what are the challenges, I think, and we can have discussions about possible solutions and how we can address those challenges that they're expressing.
There's a
Able to set
question.
up a Zoom meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
There's a question from Crystal Brown, whether this recording can be accessed. If you're in the WhatsApp group, I give Lloyd the link to the rebroadcast on YouTube. But if you're on Facebook, you can go to the AHIABGA Network group, and each week our recordings are live streamed there, so you're able to access them at any time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So are they available to do, I mean, not available, but are we able to do, like we have the WhatsApp, so like with the DRC to actually do Zoom or something with them? Is that, I'm still learning WhatsApp, so I apologize.
Well, WhatsApp is just a communication tool, just like Messenger, for example. But on WhatsApp, we have a group for this particular team that's meeting now. So we put content there that's accessible to anyone with WhatsApp. Anyone can access any of the content in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, so if I put in a link for to get to, to be able to Zoom and find out if it's appropriate, if they want to know more about it or how to set up something, that would be through giving them a link. Well, we can talk about it.
Get in touch with me afterward, Prophet, and we'll connect you up with the people from the DRC group, and or I'll invite them into the Women and Feminist Network chat, and we can have a conversation there.
Okay, and do that on WhatsApp or email. I have your email. Okay, thank you.
Either one will work. Yeah.
You have a couple of hands raised, Lloyd.
Yep. Okay, so we'll go with Crystal Brown.
Thank you. So my question is how, oops, sorry, I didn't have my camera on. How do I add myself to the WhatsApp group?
Well, Lloyd,
So
if you
Chris-
have if Lloyd can put the invite link into the chat here, but if you also include your email address in the chat, we'll be able to follow up with you directly.
All right, wonderful. I'll do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So normally with my presentation, I do have many, many more slides that go on, and I will put in links to all of the various groups because we are, as I call it, a network of networks. So right now we have a large number of WhatsApp groups with specific focus on different topics of discussion with some related Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups for sort of general people to have express an interest in these different topics of discussion, along with professionals who may have an interest in providing goods and services in these different realms as well. Where, as I mentioned during the introduction, we eventually do wish to bring everybody onto this global unity, what we call the interchange for peace exchange, basically virtual space where we can actually then much more easily interact among all these groups rather than sort of the isolated and siloed conversations that happen in each one.
You have additional hands raised, Lloyd.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Jean-Baptiste. You're still muted right now.
If you didn't understand.
Okay, there he's going. Jean-Baptiste.
Oui. Merci. Je suis Jean-Baptiste, mais s'il y a quelqu'un qui peut interpréter parce que je parle le français seulement, si nous pouvons utiliser l'interprétation de l'interprète de Fura.
Could we have someone translate that for him, please?
Yes, there's no problem, so you can go.
Oui, je disais, je vais passer un mot sur la de la femme congolaise à l'est de la République.
So I've been speaking that I'm gonna speak something about the marginalized women in the Eastern DRC. And I'm a Konkwa.
Je suis le coordonnateur de l'action sociale pour limiter le développement intégral, AHIABGA ainsi.
I have gotten also an association in the Eastern DRC called AHIABGA.
Tel qu'a mentionné la Furaha Kakunyo,
as the Mam Furaha has spoken about the marginalized DRC women.
En République démocratique du Congo, nous avons des lois, mais non appliquées.
So in DRC, we've gotten some laws, but they are not put into consideration.
Les lois de la RDC sont là théoriquement, mais inapplicables sur la lutte contre la marginalisation de la femme congolaise.
Many laws are there in DRC, but they are not considered with authorities in DRC. They are about non-marginalization toward women, but they don't put them, they don't execute them.
Si vous pouvez voir notre constitution, vous allez voir qu'il y a des lois très riches, mais inapplicables sur la société.
If you can see in our constitution, in our country constitution, we have gotten many laws, but they are not helping our country to.
C'est pourquoi je suggérerais membre de Unity Global.
This is why I really suggest to the the members of Global Unity Network.
Donc, de fournir ou de constituer des stratégies qui peuvent permettre à nous, membres de Unity en République démocratique du Congo.
So I would suggest that they may also make some strategies that could help us as members of the Global Unite in DRC.
De faire des sensibilisations de lutte contre la marginalisation de la femme congolaise.
To make some sensibilization against the marginalization of women in the Eastern and the whole DRC.
Parce que cette marginalisation à la manque d'information à la population et aux dirigeants, quelques dirigeants sont vraiment sous-informés. S'il y a des sensibilisations, des campagnes de sensibilisation d'ici et là, cela permettra d'éradiquer la marginalisation de la femme parce que tout le monde sera informé sur les défis de la marginalisation de la femme congolaise.
So sensibilizations are good and well because in this way people can get informed about the situation of women, even authorities, and then they can see how to resolve the problems. Once they've gotten information and they've been sensibilized. So this is very important to make some sensibilization. They will help both our authorities and every country people to be informed about it.
L'insertion de ces programmes de sensibilisation de lutte dans les programmes de Unity Global.
Really, this activity can be good. So the fact of sensibilizing people through this program of Global Unity Network can be good. And will help more for fighting against the marginalization of women.
Cela permettra d'éradiquer cette marginalisation dans toute la République démocratique du Congo.
This will help us here in DRC to put an end to this marginalization of women in the Eastern DRC and the whole country.
Et cela de tout le monde, de chacun, donc si chacun intègre, tel qu'il y a changement à ces problèmes-là.
I also think that these problems need the implication of everyone.
Je voudrais aussi parler par rapport à l'apiculture et donc l'élevage des abeilles, tel qu'a exposé Madame Koura.
I would want to speak about also apiculture, as the Ma'am Fura has been explaining.
Donc les miels c'est donc une nourriture très riche et considérée comme médicament. D'ailleurs, les miels congolais sont plus riches parce que sont naturellement produits.
Really, apiculture is a good project because its fruit is so considered in our country and even in other countries around DRC. So it's also used in curing and doing many things. So it's very important. I do agree with him that is one of the important activities that is good for women and others to invest on.
Voici en quelques ce qu'il y avait à placer par rapport à et je remercie beaucoup pour l'exposé.
So these are the few words that I wanted to speak for the presentation of Via Furaha. That was good for me.
Et je remercie aussi mon interprète parce que souvent, nous, en FDT, nous avons difficulté de parler parce que nos réunions souvent se passent en anglais seulement. Et comme il a je me sens bien parce que j'ai placé aussi un mot.
So I do thank also his interpreter because he has been helping me. So because here in DRC we have some problems because we are a francophone country. So every day we are watching some meetings in English, only in English. But I thank his interpreter because I've been helped and I've been getting really many words. Thank you for that. So I thank you like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Baptiste. Merci. We try our best to translate as much of what we do into the French language groups that we are developing and we are creating. Carlos has been very good at this, actually, engaging in the Francophone countries. Did you want to say something, Ayodele?
Yes, just some way to thank.
Thank you for the great work that you are doing, Mr. Lloyd, and we appreciate the team from Congo. If you follow the things which is going on in Africa, there is nothing different from what is going on in Congo from other African countries, because the women has been marginalized. And but we thank God for the UnityNet approach. I was sharing with some people from Nigeria this afternoon concerning the vision of the UnityNet, especially when we are talking about the gender balancing and also leaving no one behind, and also the bottom approach. My concern, which I would like to talk about, is that among all our presenters, although I know that those who are in Congo, because they are not new to me, they are our team, we like to know those who are part of the UnityNet Africa and diaspora. And at the same time, we appreciate that whatever anything which is going on, because we want to work together as a family. I want Mr. Lloyd to know this, that why we come together as the UnityNet African diaspora is number one, to use UnityNet to unite African together, and also to drive the vision with common goal, so that we don't leave anyone behind. So I want to please that whatever we want to do, let it be, especially in relating with individuals that are coming up for presentation, let the continental leadership and the global leadership should be carried along so that we can move as a team. So that is my concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adela, and I've taken that into account as we've had forward with our conversations regarding projects, because now we are putting together in charge, for instance, our friend Mr. Rusli, to try to bring together everybody so that everybody who's ready to put forward their own proposals can become. We can put these all the proposals that are available and ready to be implemented on that table, so that we can come together as one organization, and multiple different countries, different communities can take advantage of this network and build this network together. So Mohammed, you had a few more words to say.
Can I go on?
Go ahead, Mohammed, we can hear you.
Okay, like I was saying, we want to ask for a permission from the Global Unity Network for our presentation, because also here we haven't challenges. So we want to do some demonstration and to do our presentation, because we have organization here, but we want to ask for time and to do our presentation. I don't know how that is possible for us. So that's the question that I want to ask.
So you're asking if you will be able to do presentation in a subsequent week or today?
No, not today. We are in the preparation. So we know that we're gonna update you that we just want to ask for permission if it's possible after we have done our research and so we can do our presentation, like what the DRC did today.
Well, just get in contact with me after this by WhatsApp and let me know when. I'll give you some dates that are available, and we can schedule you in to do that. And the same for anybody else that's on this call that would like to potentially do a presentation, whether it's anybody, Prophet Cox, for instance, you may want to do a presentation about the work that you're doing for mental health, or anybody else that has something to present and to say about their own work. This is the platform where we are going to do this to make sure that everybody is aware of what our members are doing. So if there are no other comments or questions for Raha, we can probably close up today. It looks like it's about 1:15 my time, so we've been on here approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Sir, Professor Lloyd.
Yes, Juliet, go ahead.
Yes, it's just also hopefully two sentences. I just feel that recording in progress. Okay, I just want to reiterate that it's important that we empower, that the feminists, which include both men and women, should play the role of empowering women to find solutions that they're already working on in the communities. We do not want to perpetuate a situation where women who are right in the forefront of a war of violence against themselves find themselves having to have the narrative being driven by people who might not have firsthand experience of what it is to go through what they're going through. I'm not saying that collaborating and supportive role by men is not important, but we need to be careful, I think, as Global Unity Network and in our organizations, that we don't perpetuate any form of patriarchy, even if it's in a very mild and subtle way. And we need to actually give women credit. Doesn't matter where they're sitting, whether in the DRC or whether in Nepal. The understanding and the benefit of the doubt that they have the solutions. We just need to empower them with the means to be able to make a larger difference. They've been doing it for a lifetime. So I wasn't going to say this, but I just felt I must say it, because it's important that women like Mama Faran and other women drive the process, yes, in transforming their communities and the lives of women and girl children. Okay.
And I absolutely agree with that as well. But this was always, from the beginning, something that was intended to empower our women globally, which is why at first we did partner with the Global Women's Development Network. But we are going to be looking for other partnerships with other women's organizations, whether it's here in Canada or in South Africa or wherever in the world, we can partner with these women's organizations who are trying to empower themselves and all other women. Ayodele, you had a few more comments to make?
Yes. Thank you once again. I just have a kind of word of advice, especially though I know that the IGU summit is not only the members of the UnityNet, either globally or continental, that are involving in this summit. Last time our experience with Global Women Initiative, whatever, I was not very good at all, and I think I raised a motion which I told Professor Carlos that if at all, that if there's going to be any collaboration of partnership between the UnityNet and any independent organization that are coming on this platform, let that be a kind of a MOU that we spell out everything, the responsibility, the agreement, and because the MOU is a document of agreement, is a legal document as speak what we are doing together. Because it sounded very rude and embarrassed when the Global Women Development Network, when they sent a memo to our platform, insulting, especially the way they wrote the letter. It sounds very rude, especially to you, Prince Andrew, which does not go well in my heart. I said, no, this is it is not sound so good. Because number one, before I believe that they have been having a program with you now. It's like under the UnityNet, the program grow big. Now it's like, oh, maybe probably UnityNet or you and Prince Andrew wanted to hijack the initiative. I wouldn't like a situation like that. If this, for example, they're talking about the Global Women Network, if it is about the Unity Network globally and continentally, let it be established very well, and let us know clearly that women, the Global Women Development Unity Network is directly under the Global UnityNet. And so that in all the African countries where we have a UnityNet, the same body can be established so that it will be a clear vision. It will be a clear vision.
And this is actually, I wanted to thank you for that too as well. I wanted to mention that document because of our wonderful ambassador in South Africa, Princess Chepi, as well, being affected by that. But this was the proposal that I had been making to the leaders of the Global Women's Development Network, the Community Development Foundation. What we wanted to do was establish basically local chapters of the Global Women's Development Network in each country. And I made the proposal to her, but I guess that unfortunately they rejected that idea. They wanted to focus on Pakistan, I suppose. Not sure exactly what happened there, but we're moving on and moving forward. Prophet, you have your hand up one more time.
Yes, one more time. And this is it. I just wanted to share, I saw in the chat that the recommendation that in terms of working with men, and I had to jump off trying to figure out how to do the WhatsApp. So I missed a little bit, so forgive me. But the idea I can say up front, and I'm willing to do a presentation around the healing circles as well as the holistic pieces of it. But I just want to say in terms of separate groups, because we do, like with the mental health, we do Black only spaces. And so it's possible to do women only spaces and men only spaces, and then also come together as with ally spaces. And so for me, it works as a person who's been in mental health a long time, because I've worked with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, and I've gone to the family part of them where basically the Alcoholics Anonymous did not want you talking about Narcotics Anonymous. They, for whatever reason, it's self-help kind of model has worked, and it's a real kind of old model. So it's not a matter of more division. It's a matter of letting people have a safe space to work on a particular issue. And then there's always the ally space or the working as a collective. So it doesn't eliminate anybody. There has been some pushback in terms of Black only and Black owned spaces. But even with that, we've done ally spaces. And once they did ally spaces, they really appreciated the Black only spaces. So it's not to leave anybody out. I mean, I like the idea that everything is under, we come to Global Unity Network, and that we should all be under an umbrella, but just to know there is some validity around those separate groups.
And I agree, actually, in the spaces that we create for ourselves. I mean, when we create these spaces, and this is part of the reason why we are a network of networks, we have these discussion groups that don't necessarily interchange, but we would like to eventually, of course, bring everybody together in what you perhaps calling there the sort of the one place where everybody can, these allied spaces, as you call it. So we're hoping that eventually we'll get on this virtual collaborative network. But even once we're on the virtual collaborative network, this interchange for peace doesn't mean you won't have these individual discussion groups and focused conversations with different sort of communities of practitioners. Of course, that those still exist. And we'll likely continue to use the WhatsApp, we'll continue to use the Facebook, we'll continue to use the LinkedIn, all of these tools as well. But we'll also have those common spaces that will allow us to come together every once in a while to have these global conversations, especially across nations and languages and cultures. Because that, I think, is the ultimate goal here, is to understand and realize that we are all one human species and we are the same. We all have these same basic needs, which is why, again, I show Maslow's hierarchy. We need to address all of these needs, all the way up to the psychosocial and emotional and everything that needs to ensure that we can thrive. So you wanted to say some final remarks, Andrew?
Well, just to ask Ayodele and Juliet, in light of the fact that these Thursday meetings include members from the Africa UnityNet, et cetera, that perhaps it might be a good idea for us to consider a secretariat, or at least a way to have someone to be able to provide us with a summary of the activities that we do on a weekly basis, and then identify action steps. And I think Ayodele and Juliet, that might fall under an umbrella that you could work with to make sure you have an understanding of the impact of what we're doing here on your own individual group. That's my thought.
And everybody should know that the Unity Network Africa and Diaspora Secretariat does have a weekly call themselves every Monday, which is something, again, that people should understand. So we are now having these calls every Monday with the members of the UnityNet African Diaspora. They take place at 12 noon my time, I believe. And then on Wednesdays now, there's a brand new discussion to talk about projects with Irwan Ruslan, who's leading these conversations. We had the very first one yesterday. So now the Global Unity Network has 3 weekly Zoom events happening. This one, which presents the overarching goals of the network, but with some more focused discussions specifically on the Africa Diaspora Network, as well as the projects which can go beyond Africa to, as I'm trying to build right now, a 3-continent collaborative network for Africa, for Turtle Island, for Asia, or Eurasia, I should say. So if there are no additional comments, it is now 1:30 p.m. my time. We've been on for approximately 2.5 hours. I guess we can wrap up at this point in time. Thank you all for coming on. Thank you Furaha for your wonderful presentation today. I think we opened up a lot of very interesting discussions. And I think moving forward, we're understanding better and better what it is we are trying to do. Thank you all, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks.